We're in the midst of a huge transformation where peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I am the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am very excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Eric Saggese. He is the VP of People at Happy Money. Eric, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how exactly you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Christina. I'm really grateful to get to spend this time with you to talk about some really important stuff. Eric Saggese, my pronouns are he, him, and his. I have been in the people and culture space for about 18 years, which is crazy to think. I live in Southern California with my partner Via Triet and our Maltipoo Fabio. I'm a transplant from New York City, so I've been in California for a little over a decade now, which is one of the best decisions I made was to move out west. Now I'm bi-coastal, so it's pretty wonderful. I sing, I play the piano, I play the clarinet, I play the violin. I'm pretty, I guess what you would call both a band and a choir geek, which is a superpower as far as I'm concerned. And until middle school, I had always answered the question about what I wanted to be when I grew up as to be a travel agent. There was this
Fun.
thought of me just curating an experience for people and having that be my job. And I think to this day, I thoroughly enjoyed booking travel and hotels and flights. So that was always something that seemed really, really interesting and fun to me.
I love that. I just always think it's interesting to think about what our dreams were when we were younger, and almost no one says the current job that they're in because things always change as well.
Yes.
Fast forward to today, you're the VP of People at Happy Money, and I was reading about you and your organization. I know Happy Money exists to really help people use their money as a tool for their happiness. Eric, how do you use money as a tool to fuel your happiness?
Yeah, so travel is a big one for me. So it seems to be a theme here. My partner and I like to go somewhere new, and it could be down the block to a strawberry patch, or it could be across the world. But we try to go somewhere every month that's just new to both of us. Feel like a lot of learning can happen in that. For self-care for me, fitness club membership, spa membership. And then another really important part for me as far as a happy spend is concerned is my time. So when I lived in New York City, I volunteered for the Ali Forney organization, which is an organization that was meant to help displaced LGBTQIA youth that have been homeless or have been displaced from their homes due to just coming out or not being necessarily received by their families. So I would donate my time to them at the time. And now that I'm not in New York City anymore, I do make monthly donations.
I love that. I think that is
Yeah.
important as well. A huge impact on the community, and also caring for yourself and your well-being is also important. I would say most of us have to work to really support that well-being. So our employers and the company culture that we work in is really important, and it doesn't just happen. It's intentionally cultivated by leaders and the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis. As the leader of the people team, what are qualitative and quantitative ways you think about measuring this dynamic thing of company culture?
Yeah, so there's a lot, right? So there's I consider it to be like anecdotal, the qualitative piece. There are the quantitative. I am happy to say and very proud to say that we have people related metrics front face to the company that live on our company OKR dashboard. So these are things that are tracked. These are things where we can check in and say, hey, we're behind. What's impacting and influencing this? The biggest one quantifiably that I'd say that we look at is our ENPS. So the question, I would recommend Happy Money as a great place to work. And there's a lot that rolls up to that specific metric. If we think about relationship with your manager, with your team, what confidence do you have in your leadership? Have they cast a vision that excites you and motivates you? Do you think that our product and service is playing well in the field right now? And so a lot of those things then specifically also tie into a sense of belonging or a sense of alignment. We also have other sort of quantifiable metrics that we look at around the workforce. So our attrition, right? We do look and we do analyze pretty heavily the exit feedback that comes in, regardless of the nature of people's departures. What are the categories, the reasons why people are leaving? Where can we iterate and learn from that as well? Also, reasons why people are staying. So, what motivates people to stay? What has kept them, on the rocket ship that is Happy Money? And so, we do ask those questions and create spaces for those sort of listening circles pretty frequently. Quantifiably as well, around our engagement and communication, we have a platform called Lattice, and I will first preface this by saying that an app cannot single-handedly solve the culture issue, cannot single-handedly impact culture. But what Lattice has done for us is it's created a space, it's created a mechanism, and also even frameworks to really supercharge some of our one-on-ones, create a platform for recognition and praise. So people are leveraging that. It's also serving, and obviously, as a good source and repository of information for folks then as we're getting to the end of the year and we're writing performance reviews. We have really good reference points there. So it's facilitating, I think, deeper, more constructive conversations as a tool. And it is a tool that's doing that, but it's more about the conversations, and we do share that a lot. Anecdotally, I will say, so we do create very, very different and varied spaces. We have coffee chats, and so these are cross-functional groups that we get together to meet with our CEO, share anything that's top of mind, specifically around their experience around the industry, what he thinks about maybe where we currently are at, where we're headed. So there's a lot of qualitative things that come out of that, as well as culture chat specifically around, what is it that you currently see our blind spots or things that we can be doing to better impact culture. We have an Ask Me Anything Slack channel. And that is directed to our executive team. And so people drop comments in there to say, hey, read this article about one of our competitors. What do you think about this? Or, hey, Eric, I noticed that, a lot of people are talking about the 4-day work week. Do you have an opinion on this? Is this something? So for me, I think a lot of what I see with culture is what you tolerate, but also what you celebrate. So I'm in a lot of meetings and I'm exposed to a lot and I see a lot of interactions. And some of the things that come to mind for me that are good markers are people being able to speak up and ask for clarity, people to say, I'm sorry, we're behind on something, we need help. There's a certain, we talked about emotional and psychological safety that comes with that, but the more we can see that sort of behavior be brought to life and have it be reinforced, the sky doesn't open up and swallow someone whole because they don't know the answer to something, I think has been really powerful and really special for me to witness.
Absolutely. That conversation piece is so important. And it sounds like there's not just one metric for quantitative, one metric for qualitative. If you really want to know what's going on in the company culture, you need to continue to ask folks and really bring in your curiosity, bring in that humility, iterate as you were talking about as well, in terms of that psychological safety and that emotional safety at work. A lot of people are talking about how is your company, how's your team really supporting your full person inside and outside of work. So Eric, I would love to ask, how are you supporting your kind of teams and employees' financial and mental well-being at Happy Money?
This is very important to us. We are a financial technology company. And so I do think in a lot of respects, we obviously offer a lot of the things that we offer to our members, right? So if we think about our product offering and our service offering, we are empowering people to use money as a tool for their happiness, right? Some of that also involves helping support their goals, and that could be through our personal loan. But why would we not be offering this to our people as well, right? So to our own employees that are helping to drive this mission. So a couple of things that come to mind that I wanted to speak to on the financial front. We did just introduce last week, actually, we're in our second week of what we're calling Fin Talks. So these are kind of sparked off of the rounding out of the ending of Financial Literacy Month in April. But these are specifically financial literacy sessions on a variety of topics. Last week, we introduced one and someone on my team facilitated a session around 529 college savings plans, which was, for me, even cool. I don't have children, but to think about the fact that there's a product out there that gives you some tax benefits and that there's an investment component, I didn't know about it. So it was a very, very enlightening for me, as well as another session that we have that we've kicked off this week, which is around equity. And not only equity, but also in the context of your compensation at Happy Money, as it does form a part of that. So what I love about this is we've made the decision to actually have this extend the whole year. So again, going back to our mission, going back to why we exist and why we're here, it's to connect people with these teachable moments and these learning experiences around financial literacy. So we'll continue to bring in internal and external hosts that have specific subject matter expertise around financial literacy, and that will go on all year, and probably beyond that as well. On the health and wellness front, we know this is such, I hate to say it's even a hot topic. This should be something we should have just had top of mind all along, but here we are COVID, and I think, redesigning the work, how we work and how we get together, and just even bringing our lives into all of this, has been, a challenge, but I think a worthwhile challenge for everyone to be tackling. So one of our most popular benefits, I will say, that I am proud of, and that I do have to say people do leverage it, is a monthly health and wellness day. So this is outside of our standard PTO policy. In fact, we have different ways that we note this. Specifically, if someone's on a mental health day, they put a little brain on their Slack away message, and like, it's not the palm tree for vacationing. This is like, whoa, they are disconnected. And so that's something that we're doing now, that even at the executive level, like, we fully embrace. Everybody make sure, and our exec assistants make sure that they're on our calendar and that we're taking them, because a lot of this is just taking that time for self-care, but also living by example. We are also experimenting with free fitness classes, and specific challenges. One just got off of a meeting around like hydration, potentially like seeing how much water you can drink in a day. A group meditation, we do have a direct partnership with Headspace, a corporate partnership with them. So leveraging some of their content and being able to guide meditations around things that are going on in the business. So change, maybe it's having accountability. Like, there are meditations centered around all of these specific business topics. Very cool. So a lot around that, I think, specifically. And then also our money mindfulness program, which is actually a product and a service that we offer to our members, which is all about just really digging deep and thinking about your relationship and your psychological relationship with money. So.
Wow, I love that. I want to and talk and also go to a fitness class and participate in the hydration challenge. I think all of those things are really important to think about when you are, and it's also giving people an opportunity to choose as well, and not assuming what people need and want, and having the opportunity to really opt in. The gift of time for the mental health days that you were talking about too is really important. And I like the kind of distinction you had with the different emojis around kind of if it's a vacation day or if it's another day that you're taking. Are there other ways that you're thinking about really operationalizing or setting up those non-negotiables for what I like to call not work-life balance, because I think maybe this is a hot take, but balance is never a thing, but work-life harmony?
Yeah, and we certainly know that the pendulum swings and the pie chart looks a lot different day to day, week to week, right? So one of the things we did when we made the decision to go fully remote was we designed what we called our future of work. And so there were a lot of, I would say, guiding principles that went around that. And it was in an FAQ format for people to understand, like, how will we make decisions now that we are not in an office? And how will I share information more proactively with my teams? And so part of that was establishing, like I said, guardrails on when we connect, and how we share information. So meeting hygiene is a hot topic, right? And as actually last week in our CEO's weekly report, or actually it was 2 weeks ago, we actually sent out a reminder, and kind of we made reference to some of the information that was previously shared for future of work communications, which was just around things. And I also encourage my team, and I guess de facto the whole organization, with this, asking questions like, is a meeting needed? And I think, and it's interesting, it's sometimes like people need permission to do these things, and they say, oh, it's so great we're talking about it, now I know I can say it. And I'm like, you don't need our permission to set a boundary with your life, or for somebody to be, to understand that you have other roles that you play in this world outside of just an employee at this company. So defining asynchronous was huge for us. Redefining it and defining it over again, and saying, what does this really mean? Determining when and where. We have specific things now as part of our maybe decisioning framework, or how we meet, or how we share, information that is done asynchronously. And all of it goes back to, like, let's make the time together really fun and meaningful and impactful. And let's do the status updates on a Google Doc, and like we can all read through that and we can probe for questions. Also asking questions like, could this be a walking meeting? And so asking people, do you by chance have anything that you wanted to share your screen, or documents we were going to review? Otherwise, I'd love to take this walking. Would you mind calling my cell phone? Things like that. And then also offering an agenda. So as far as getting together for a meeting, I need to know my role in this meeting. I need to know if there are any key decisions that need to be made. What, also, are there any takeaways or things that are going to result from this meeting and us getting together? How will we know that the meeting meant something? So all of those things now, I've kind of gotten to the point where, with love, like, I'll decline a meeting if I don't have that, and just go back to them and say, can you give me some more color? Like, I'd love to meet. I just don't know if this is the best use of our time. So those are kind of, I think those are the biggest non-negotiables now that I will say. We also did set, to honor our friends on the East Coast and honor time zones, we did set core business hours. And so that is something we highly encourage people to avoid anything outside of those hours as far as scheduling meetings or time together is concerned. We are fully distributed now. And so we can't act like a SoCal company because we are not a SoCal company anymore. We are a nationwide company. So
Absolutely. Meeting hygiene. Those are some really great tips. I know at a conference I was recently at, that was a huge topic around asynchronous work, time zones. Does this need to be a meeting? Having agendas, really looking at the time you're spending in meetings as well, and working really collaboratively. When we're talking about healthy boundary setting, psychological safety, company culture, we are talking about creating a distributed workplace, equity, opening up more opportunities, accessibility to roles. Can you tell me a little bit more about Happy Money's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategy?
yeah, so this is like woven in everything that we do. So there isn't, for us, and we had sort of made this decision at the start of the year. This is not like a standalone goal that we have. It's not a standalone team that exists. It is woven, and that is not to say that it's a cop out to say that we don't have our eyes and ears on it constantly. It's just it has to be in everything that we do. So we may have a key result, we may have a KPI that's tied to it at some point, or maybe element of improving the component of DEI. But we always look at everything through the lens of our people feeling loved and a part of. It's just it. That's just how we approach it, right? So the three pillars that we have around our DEI strategy, one is centered around an inclusive culture. So we fully acknowledge we are multifaceted human beings, and inclusion and diversity is not a one-sided coin. You can be more than just Black, you can be more than just gay, you can be more than just a woman. And so we have specific events that we've put in place, things that we've experimented with, like this cultural diversity celebration called Revel that we do, where we bring all the entire company, all of our team members together, and we aim to really lean into like the intersectionality of inclusion and diversity, so that we can form out, allyship, so that we can build understanding and empathy. Second pillar being education. So we do a bit of a combination here. One thing that we do is around a pass the mic approach. Okay, so my team often, as you can imagine, has the stage and has the platform to share and to talk about DEI related topics, right? But we do seek out different voices throughout the company that we can pass that on to oftentimes. And some of that is bringing someone in to maybe spark discussion on something specifically, or to maybe ask a probing question and kind of leave it out there. And then maybe we have a panel that speaks to it. So advocating our people, just to be clear, like I fully understand, is not about being the voice for the voiceless. Our people do have voices. It's just sometimes having to pass that mic and give them that space to be heard, right? So and then the other thing about that I do also want to call out is we do strike a balance between recognizing that it is our responsibility to educate in some of these cases. So we don't fully put that burden on marginalized voices to say it is your job to educate us. We just sometimes will offer, maybe gut check, maybe go out in a more committee format to say, this is what we're thinking. Does it encompass what you had in mind? The third one being hiring, and I think our fully distributed workforce really allows us to tap into the best talent across the US and Canada. And I fully believe that increases our diversity of thought, it decreases groupthink, and it really propels us even farther. Some of the best hires we've had have just been from different markets that we never would have been able to tap into if it weren't for going remote. So very, very grateful for that and mindful of that.
It sounds like those are very three solid pillars and also a holistic approach. I definitely think diversity, equity, and inclusion should be at the DNA core of decision making, building processes, and woven throughout the organization. So we're definitely on the same page there as well. We are in May 2022. So glad we made it here again. I'd love to ask, how is Happy Money honoring and celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander Month this year, recognizing that, to your point, this is not something that we are siloing out, not thinking about intersectionality, then also supporting AAPI employees is something that I'm sure you do 365 days a year, but definitely like to ask and name specific points there.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's great. We have a month with all of the energy and passion and love around this, but it is a year-round And so, a year-round sort of celebration and effort and focus that we should have, right? Um, what we have learned specifically with our celebrations is that they're best received when we can build thoughtful programs um, that are really inclusive of all of our people and elevate all voices. So we are looking forward to working with some of our AAPI employees on a learning moment in our upcoming all hands. And so this is going to be sort of a pass the mic situation where we've been doing fireside format chats with our CEO and with an individual that might be part of a marginalized community or maybe AAPI or LGBTQIA. But this is really to talk about topics that are top of mind, specifically around AAPI month. To support the balanced work schedule, some of the feedback we did get was, oh, I can't make this, or the way that my job is structured, I can't go to all hands. We are also creating space for a sort of organic asynchronous, bring back the asynchronous again, asynchronous forum. And we're using Slack for this in most cases. And so what we're going to be doing is asking for employees to submit any sort of recommended AAPI owned businesses that we should be supporting. Our team loves a crowdsourced list, Spotify list, music list, and so
Sure.
this is really great engagement. And what I hope that sparks off of this is to have other dialogues around other, talking about heroes and people that we should be honoring or remembering as well.
Absolutely. I think voting with your wallet and really submitting those crowdsourced resources is important as well. I love that. I think that is also something that is kind of not siloed out into a month and really shows that you're dedicated to listening to employees, creating those learning moments.
Yeah.
Eric, for people who are not working with the VP of people or not interacting with people, human resources teams on a day-to-day basis, what would most people be surprised to know about a day in the life of you?
Yeah. So I think maybe from the outside looking in, people could look at people in culture, people look at HR. And obviously there are elements of my job and the work that I do that are guided by, process and programs and policies and compliance. But most of my day is highly emotional. And it's for me, and I'm also finding now, in the role that I'm in, highly driven by instinct and just gut and like finding what's right for the moment, what's right for us and for the company and for that individual if somebody's impacted. Um, I feel the joys and the pains at work. And I think that for me, it's not that like I cry when I fail or that I get angry when things don't go my way, but I seriously have to work through my emotions sometimes on a daily basis to understand and know how I'm feeling. Um, and I frankly think it comes out in the quality of my work because what happens, it's not that being emotional causes me to not be objective, right? It's that now I have an emotional tie to the work that I'm doing, which is like the stakes are so much higher. Bringing that to completion, to accomplishment, even to failure, I just feel it so deeply. And it just allows me to bring a high amount of energy to everything that I do. And I think that's felt across the company.
Absolutely. That high amount of energy, really being close to the work and committed to it, not taking ourselves too seriously, but taking the work seriously too, is really, really important. Eric, is
Yeah.
there anything that I didn't ask you in our conversation that whizzed by, or any key takeaways you would like to underscore for folks who are listening, something that they could bring with them?
Yeah. So, some of the work that we do in the space is going to be hard. It's going to be big. It's going to be hard to pull off. Other things that we do are going to be really easy. I think so long as you're always looking at things and with the fact that you want to care for your employees and care for who they are outside of work in mind, like it's a winning combination. We experimented last year with doing a virtual bring your kids to work day, and it was so cute. We had our employees children like make their own little happy money name badges, and they had their own facilitated Zoom calls while mom and dad were on their own Zoom calls. And it you know from a communication standpoint, was it a heavy lift? Yes. Did we have to coordinate sending packages out? Yes. But at the end of the day, it was like our people came back and was like, wow, they really care that I'm a parent. They really care that I have a child and that I play several roles in this world. And so I think just with the goal of of saying that we see them, we see all of them. We understand that we need them to bring their whole selves to work. It just goes a long way. And so sometimes it's going to be easy to do that, but so long as you do that in mind, just make sure you understand when people shut the laptop, when they leave the office, that you fully recognize and respect and love who they are outside of work as well. Um, it'll be a winning thing.
It will. That is a great example. Take Your Kid to Work Day was one of my favorite days growing up. So I'm glad that you can emulate that in a virtual setting, and also going the extra mile to really recognize and celebrate the roles, as you were saying, that we wear inside and outside of work is a big deal, and it speaks eons. Eric, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful, Christina.
Of course, and as a reminder for folks who are listening at AllVoices, we really believe in employees and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know it's a requirement for the business to really succeed overall. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.